It's mediocrity that's set in. It's boredom that's set in. And again, life is too short to live that way.
Hi, and welcome to the Living Richly podcast. My name is Rob Dale, and I'm here with my two great friends, Eric Deschamps and Trev?
Where's Trev today? Trev's not here.
Trev's not here today. It's going to be just the two of us. Trevor, of course, one of the challenges of recording a podcast with a farmer is sometimes they have to do farm shit. He is off doing some farmer shit today. So we are going to be having a conversation, just the two of us.
Yeah, exciting.
What will we ever talk about?
Oh, I have no idea because we always run out of things to say, it seems. But you know what's really cool is we recently had an episode with, and of course, we're also joined by Steve Warren.
Hey, guys.
Bit of a delay there, but
yeah, he's a little slow.
Sorry.
But recently had Steve on the show as our first guest, and we've been getting such great feedback about that episode. And as a matter of fact, we had one of your coaching clients who emailed us a phenomenal testimony.
Yeah, and so what we wanted to do today is we wanted to really have a conversation just around, again, why this matters, why we are doing the Living Richly, some of the things that we can get passionate about. In fact, it's because of the email that I received and from some of the conversation that happened with Steve that I'm intentionally wearing my Proud Dad shirt today.
Nice.
I was deliberate in that because some of this stuff fires us up. And so we do want to read, and we did get permission from Matthew to share a little bit of what he shared with us. We're not going to share all of it, but he has certainly been someone who has been following the podcast since the beginning.
He told us he listens religiously every Wednesday morning.
That's what he's doing, is he's going to listen in on each of the episodes, and has provided us some insight. And again, we want to just say, to all of you that are listening or watching, we so value when you send us your feedback, whether that's commenting on one of the channels, the Facebook or the Instagram or the YouTube channels, or whether it's by sending us an email. By the way, we really don't talk too much about how you can reach us. You can certainly reach the channel just at info@livingrichly.me. You can reach each of us individually just with our first name, Eric at livingrichly.me, Rob at livingrichly.me.
It's funny how that works.
It flows really easy.
It's
nice
your name in the email address.
Yeah, so you can't reach Eric at Rob at livingrichly.me.
You can indirectly. It just seems like a hard way to do it.
So Matthew has sent us a number of times. He sent us a feedback. He's a psychologist by profession, and so has often commented on certainly seeing the value of guys talking about their emotions. He appreciates, of course, from as a psychologist, some of the, and we're always very careful, right? We're not psychologists. No. We don't even play one on TV. And so we have enough knowledge around just our own work that we've done that we often will share some of the ideas that psychologists use, cognitive behavior therapy, family systems dynamics, some of these other ones. But we recognize that certainly we are not in that.
We know our limits, yeah.
So it is great when we get feedback from someone who that is their world, and to be able to say that we're on point. But he shared us a comment. He made the comment around Steve's episode and just how powerful it was, how good it was. And in that episode, we were talking a little bit about locker room conversations and talk. And I think we even said, in fact, he makes a reference to it in his notes about how this is something that maybe we hopefully have moved past, and he shares a bit of this story. So let me just share a little bit of, I'm going to be reading here, but appreciate that as we go through this. I really appreciated, this is Matthew's words, I really appreciated this week's episode. I just sent it to my sons. Steve had said that some of the things that passed in locker room culture in the 70s and the 80s doesn't hold up or happen now. My son, who will be 19, one of his sons who will be 19 18 on Monday, played football during high school, and I can tell you that not much has changed. He came home with all kinds of stories of homophobic comments from teammates and coaches alike. The coaches and players were likable enough, but knowing the comments are there still bugs me. He said things maybe have changed, but haven't changed enough. He said, I sent the today's podcast or last week's podcast to my sons because as young men, they still struggle to express their feelings to their friends. So thank you for trying to move the needle. I really appreciate that you guys are fighting the battle to help men get more in touch with themselves, and that the needle does move and move more and more faster. And then he ended his comments with, I know we both, when we read the email, were like, damn, right? This fired us up. His last question was, as we talked about moving the needle, he said, maybe we can turn the tide at some point. And I think we both kind of went, that's what this is about. There is a passion that we have. We have talked about that, and the two of us, of course, with our backgrounds, in many cases very similar. We have gone through so many of our journey. In some ways, has been very similar, very different in other ways. But we get to this point, and we have both said that the Living Richly work is some of the most important work that we have ever done.
Agreed. I couldn't agree more. I mean, it's part of why we launched the podcast in the first place. And thank you, Matthew, for that note of encouragement. And you can be assured we very much, I had never kind of thought of it in the terms of the battle, right? Of fighting to create a message, a safe place for people to start getting present to the stuff that we've been talking about. I think a lot of folks are living in the shadows. They don't know, they don't have a safe place. This is a message that is so important. And we saw it when Steve shared his story. We hear it resonating with so many others. I know just this past week with many of my clients who tune into the show now religiously and are like, oh, I so love that last episode. It is opening up conversations with them that I never had before. I've got one great young leader going through such a hard time right now on the home front, and he described the podcast like as a lifeline that he listens, and it just gives him that hope to just keep pushing through the hardship and the pain that he's facing. So like this really, really matters, and I'm so pleased that we're doing this work and getting such a great feedback from our listeners who are resonating with the message.
Yeah, and we do get fired up about it, and we because we believe in it so strongly, and I appreciate when we hear, again, we get some great feedback. Common comment is around the notion of that men need this, that men need to hear this. Now it's interesting that if we were to probably poll our listeners, we probably have as many female listeners as we would men listeners, if not more, right. Right. And so I know that the message is resonating not just with men, or it's not just women saying my man needs to hear this or my sons need to hear this. They are also in this place. People need to hear it. People 100%. Need to begin to embrace. We are in a society that over the last number, I mean, again, we've just come out of a pandemic. We've come out of all of this kind of stuff. There's so much in the world right now of us and them and tension and it. Getting back to that, getting centered with who you are and how you live out your life is important, no matter whether you're male, female, however you identify. It doesn't matter. So many other elements, and that's why we're doing what we're doing.
Absolutely. I mean, and you referred to it earlier. Like, this started out of our own personal journey, right? So fueled very much by our own personal pain, our own personal struggles, our own quest for what does it mean to live our best life. And that led us into some conversations and some experiences, and out of that emerged this really what is becoming feels like a movement of people that are waking up I've used the term coma so often because for me, I felt for years it's like I was living in a coma, doing great work and in many ways experiencing moments of joy and transformation, but for the most part, just going through the motions. And this past year, and actually, as we record this episode, it's almost a year to the day for me that I keep pointing. If you've been listening to previous episodes, I keep pointing back to this time in April of 2022 where something really landed for me, and so I'm almost a year on that now, and it's been so transformational, so powerful to really redefine who I am, what really matters, and lean into it with great intentionality. And then to see this podcast emerge as a result of that journey for all three of us, and now to watch and the response that we're getting, or to see the response that we're getting from others who are also resonating with this message. And you're right, it's not just men. I think where it's resonating for men is I often describe people say, well, what's your podcast about? I said, well, it's three guys talking about shit guys don't normally talk about. Is the most common way that I describe it. And then talk about it's really about, again, living our best life, choosing our best life, deciding on what matters and going for it. But the message is universal and is truly resonating with so many that it really does feel like a movement is beginning to form.
And I love that language of movement and the idea that this is something that, again, it's a journey that we are on. Yeah. We're not there. We're on the journey.
Well, you are. Almost. You're closer than the rest of us.
Yeah, absolutely. I am definitely much more, not just mature, but I'm much more centered.
Well, so there's old and then there's mature. Like those two things are not the same.
So anyway. Jerk. No, there have certainly been times in the last few weeks where I have not been living richly.
Right.
There are seasons where, anxiety comes in or emotions come in, whatever they are. And, you like to think that with all of this information and with all that we've learned over the last year, that we would have it now where we just we now react the way we want to react instead of the way that we might, maybe we do.
Yeah, almost like we're in a perpetual Gandhi state, right?
Yeah, exactly, right.
Through life,
and we're not. For sure. And to your point, it's been a year. I do encourage if you're a new listener or viewer to the podcast. First of all, where the hell have you been?
No, but thanks for joining us now.
Thanks for joining us now. And I do encourage you to go back and certainly the first two episodes we walk through kind of the Living Richly model of what how it's come together. It begins with the story that of your own work that you were doing and how you were working that out, and the early morning text Trevor and I about, hey, this, and look, I want to share you this, and I want to share something from my journal, and it really began to, as you continue to build out the model, it began to be something that resonated with Trevor and I, and we began to embrace it. We even looked at, early on, and again, this is the model that worked for you, is there? And we were kind of like, nope, the model works.
Right.
Like we're just taking what you've built for yourself and we're going to build it for ourselves. And then it was, okay, now that we've taken this model that is now clearly all three of us can apply to, and we've talked about Wendy and I on our road trip that year, we began to apply that same model. We went, okay, so the model works for you, that again, the one you created works for you. The model works for Trevor and I. The model worked with Wendy and I. Hey, maybe it will work for other people. So let's start sharing out what that is.
Yeah.
And so episodes 1 and 2, we kind of cover that. And then, of course, episodes 3, 4, and 5 would be our individual stories of really maybe the stories tell us how we got to that point. But really, again, we're looking at the first few months. But it is a movement.
It is. Yeah.
And it is something we want people to resonate, that we want to have resonate with people. So maybe talk to me a little bit again. If we were to kind of summarize, we're saying this matters, this is important, we recognize this. What would be some of the top key points that we would say this is when we talk living richly? Maybe a recap. What is it that we're talking about, and why is it something we believe matters to men, women, to people, that they would begin to join the movement?
Well, I think the word that comes to, or the phrase that comes to mind immediately is that living richly is about waking the fuck up.
Yeah.
It's about waking up and getting.
What's that movie? Is that there's and again, this is where I'm going to yell out to Steve, because Steve, I guarantee he's going to know the name of it as soon as I describe it. I think it's with Robin Williams. It's with, and they're in Cocoon. Is it Cocoon? Where they all come to that awakening. They all come out of their, they're in the hospital, right? And all of a sudden everybody's awakening. And,
they were all in a coma.
And they all wake up. I don't think it's
Cocoon, but I know which movie.
It wasn't Cocoon.
Awakenings.
It is called Awakenings there. See, I knew Steve would have that. But that's what this is. You're right. It's an awakening.
Yeah, a complete awakening. It's really getting present, and perhaps for the first time. We talk about waking up. For some, perhaps we've had that are listening or that have experienced this, like we've had seasons where we're awake and seasons where we're asleep at the wheel of our own lives, right? We're just going through the motions. We're passing the time, but we're not making the time count. We're basically in the 9 to 5 grind of Groundhog Day over and over and over again, but we don't feel like our life is on fire. We don't feel like our life has meaning or purpose. And although we experience moments of joy, for the most part, there's just a lot of blah. There's just a lot of gray. And for us, like, it's been about this waking up to, one, who we truly are, getting clear about what really matters to us, what are the things that truly make us happy, and then turning the volume up on all that stuff, right? And so I think it's a message truly about, and again, we explained this in earlier episodes, but it is about putting yourself first. It's understanding that actually when you invest in your own life, when you take the time to get clear about what really matters and then start living intentionally in that direction, you end up experiencing joy, satisfaction, fulfillment, peace of mind more often. To your point, we're not... it's not about achieving this state of nirvana where we're not feeling pain and we don't have hardship and we don't go through struggles. But what I'm discovering now, after all of this work and everything that's happened, is I still remember the season where earlier on last year when I was experiencing my transformation, and I said to you guys, the only thing that worries me is that I haven't really been tested yet. And I remember,
way to go.
Right? And I remember you saying something like, "Oh, go ahead and put that out into the universe," right?
Yeah.
And since then, there have been many tests that have come. Many real challenges that in the past would have sent me spiraling. And what I'm discovering is, because I'm clear on who I am, because I'm clear on my values, because I know what fills my cup, because I've built now more regular rituals that lean into that stuff intentionally, is that I'm more grounded than I've ever been. I'm more centered than I've ever been, and I'm navigating through those challenges, navigating through pain, navigating through hardship in a way that I never have before. And so, who's this message for? It's for the people that are sick and tired of being sick and tired. They're fed up with just going through life and going through the motions, just repeating the same day over and over again, and saying there's got to be more than this. It's about discovering what is your best life and how do I live it intentionally every day.
So good. Good. And we know this now. Again, we recognize that you might be listening to this episode anytime during the year. When we recorded this, what we're recording right now, we're live right now, right?
Like, we're live. This is live.
We're live. Yeah, you're right here, and I'm right here,
and Steve's right here.
We'll see. Hey, he is right here. Yeah, he's there. But it's the end of April,
right?
And for most people, we know this statistically, most people have already failed on all of their New Year's resolutions.
Well, that was like third week of January.
Yes. Yeah, but even the ones that hung on, the overperformers,
right?
They're probably at that point. And we may now all of a sudden, as we're coming into into the spring and soon into the summer and into the nicer weather, you might be somebody who's listening going, you know what? Yep, I'm back in the same rut that I'm in every year. And I was determined that 2023 was going to be different, and it's not. And we see it with in our other work with business owners, with executives and leadership, individuals that are in really in high performing roles within different industry, that who are very successful in every other area of life. And yet there's a sense of, to your point of what you just said, is this all there is? Or,
right.
We're completely in this rut and lost. And it's because, and we were there.
Yeah.
Every year it would be like, okay, let's start it up again. And we're hot and then we're cold and then we're hot and then we're cold and because we were going about it all the wrong way. We were focused on results rather than on being.
Right.
And I think if maybe living richly is about focusing on being, so that everything else comes.
Well, we've got it backwards to your point. When we talk about, there's the age-old saying, we are human beings, not human doings.
Yes.
And although most people would resonate deeply with that message and say, yes, I believe that, let's look at how we're living our lives.
Yeah.
We're actually, in many cases, we're living according to this performance mentality that the busier I am, the more stuff I'm engaged in, the more results that I'm getting, we're chasing something. We're chasing this sense of fulfillment. We're chasing this sense of validation. We're chasing this meaning in the things that we do, whether we chase it in our careers or we chase it in relationships or we chase it in activities. We're chasing. And in many ways, it's like chasing a sunset. The minute you think you got it, it's gone. And then we just rinse and repeat and begin that whole process again the next day. This is about, again, focusing on who you are as a person, getting clear about that. I mean, most people plan a birthday party better than they plan their life. And think about how sad that is. We'll plan what we're doing Friday night with more intentionality and more deliberate intent than planning our lives. And what the Living Richly message is, it's not fluff. It's not just positive attitude stuff. It's truly about re-engineering, revisioneering your life, and then beginning to move towards it with greater intentionality.
To quote Matthew's email, our goal and our desire and why we get fired up about this is we want to turn the tide.
Yeah.
We want to.
I love that language.
Yeah, we want this to be a movement. We want people to get fired up and excited and recognize that there is more, that there is the opportunity to change how we do what we do by turning it up inside out.
Right.
Really.
Right.
And focusing inside, focusing in on self, and then being able to show up authentically in every relationship. We're tired of the bravado of the tough guy locker room talk. Listen, we can joke around like the best of them. We can have fun with each other.
Some of us better than others.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, me better than either you or Trevor. We can joke around. We have fun. We tease each other. We play and that kind of stuff, right? We're able to do that kind of stuff. So I'm not suggesting that you can't goof around with your buddies and all of that stuff.
Of course not.
But this bravado, this sense that being a man is about holding in emotion and not expressing and not being able to, all of that is such bullshit.
Yeah.
And yet it's continued to just, I so appreciate it. Listen, I'm not sure how to take the notion that some of the feedback you were saying that even, Kate has said that, Steve's episode was the best one ever. And I'm like, what about what? Don't like.
It only took us 20 some odd episodes to warm up.
Oh, sure. Bring Steve in and you have the best episode ever, right? Like,
we're going to have to bring him out in front of the camera more often.
Clearly what she's saying is we need more guests. The three of us have worn out our welcome.
I think so.
No, but this notion of, so much of what was said, because here's a guy who had the background with sports and being involved and all of that. And that bravado was so, again, evident there. That's part of what we're trying to go against.
Right.
We're trying to challenge the notion, and it's a movement. It's a community. It's bringing people together to be able to embrace it as a group.
And a movement, when you think of a movement, it starts, we think again of the sparks that we've had the privilege of starting in people, right? That it lights a fire. When people resonate with a message, it speaks deeply to them. And a movement then spreads from one person to another, to another, to another. And the more that we begin to...
It's like a virus.
It's like a virus.
No, don't you?
No.
That's bad.
It's too soon.
That's too soon.
It's too soon.
Sorry.
Steve will fix that in post-editing. I'm sure that's going to come out. I don't know. But it does. It goes from person to person, and it creates a hunger. And the more that we open up about it, the more that we talk about it. When we think of the status quo, we think of mediocrity. We think of you talk about men who are unable to actually access their emotions or even talk about them because we've been presented with this model of having it all together and being the tough guy and whatever else. And that is it's a prison. It's a jail cell where you are actually not even able to access important parts of your being, that you're completely shut off or shut down. And that's not limited to men, but it's certainly true of a lot of men. And this movement that's begun, these conversations that have started, and we're just one of many movements, I think, that are rising up and are popping up all over the place because people are sick and tired of being sick and tired, and they're tired of being fed the bullshit that they need to line up like good little soldiers and look like this. And people are tired of living their lives according to other people's values and other people's expectations and other people's shoulds and musts and have tos. People are saying, I want to live my own life here. I want to be the captain of my own ship and determine my own destiny. And so again, it's so exciting, right? For those of you that are tuning in and on a weekly basis, and you're part of this conversation, what's really been exciting to me is folks sending in questions and topic requests that they'd like us to talk about because it's sparking something, and they're curious. They're saying, give us more, but can we talk about this? Can we talk about that? And we certainly want to encourage you to keep sending in those topics. We would love to spend time addressing those things because what we're hoping we're creating is a conversation.
Yeah.
An ongoing conversation and a placeholder for people who on a weekly basis or regular basis as they're tuning into the episodes, it is a placeholder and a reminder about what matters and why it matters and what steps they can take to move in that direction. And I think that one of the reasons we often set a course and don't follow it is because it falls off the radar. Well, perhaps one of the primary reasons for this podcast is to be it's like a record that on repeat, right? Just continuing to drive home this message that life doesn't have to be the way that it is, whether it's moving away from pain and trauma, which is a very freeing, wonderful thing, or moving from a place of just, I've had some other clients say, I'm not in terrible pain. Like I kind of have a good life, but life is kind of gray. It's kind of, they've lost their purpose or their direction or a sense of meaning. And so it's mediocrity that's set in. It's boredom that's set in. Yeah. And again, life is too short to live that way.
And there's also a third, again, you're right. There's people that are in their trauma, trying to find a way out of their trauma. People, no, life's been pretty good. Really didn't have any major traumatic events. I think there are other people who are currently, they absolutely are living their best life. And their frustration is just, where's everybody else, right? And they're looking for the language to be able to communicate what it is that they're experiencing. And in some ways whether it's, I think it's difficult to kind of fall into that kind of life. I think it has to happen deliberately, or at least my experience has been it's a deliberate choice. But they're there, and hopefully the podcast and the conversations are giving language to what they're already doing.
Right.
And I think that's a third group of people that is certainly we've been hearing messaging from, and we're going to continue to look into those. We're certainly, like I said, we've got some feedback. We want to we're going to do some episodes on some different things. We're going to bring in some other guests to have them share their story of, again, where they are on their journey and some of the lessons that they've learned. Because that's our goal in this, is to recognize, and I love what you said earlier, we're not the only ones with this message, and we know that, and there's some really good podcasts, there's some good communicators that are sharing a bit of the same message. There seems to be people seem to be ready to make this shift.
Right.
And it's just looking for those right communities. We've had this, and we'll talk about this a little bit later when we wrap up today, but we've had even people reach out and go, hey, can you help me coach? Can you coach me through this? And our answer is yes.
Right.
We have that opportunity, and both of us are now coaching individuals on the Living Richly material. We're helping them meeting with them, once a month or a couple of times a month to go through the material and to make sure that they're on point with it, to help them do that. So there's so much that's happening there. I think that this notion of movement is so critical. As you kind of look at it, where for you, again, what would be right now, year in, okay,
right.
A year in, what would be one of the most significant aha moments that you have today that is no longer, that you had at some point that now has become not commonplace, but has become standard for you, standard thinking?
In my story, it's a great question, and it's hard to actually focus in on just one
thing.
One thing. What's the one thing?
There you go. Thank you, Jack.
It's hard to zero in on just one, but the one that comes to mind is, my belief about myself was so flawed and so skewed for so long, and that's work that didn't just start a year ago. That's work I've been doing for some time. It's just that last spring, something landed, and all of that went to a whole other level where I began to truly let go of some really faulty thinking. I talk about in episode 3, my story, the deep self-loathing that I carried around for so long, that much of my work, my life's work in helping others was really somehow trying to balance the ledger. That if I do enough good things, maybe one day I'll be good enough. Because I really didn't believe that. And so as a result, a lot of the relationships in my life, meaningful relationships in my life were people that I had to take care of, because I didn't feel I was worthy of true affection, true love, whatever else. And what I'm seeing now in friendships, what I'm seeing in my relationship with Kate, what I'm seeing is because I have shifted, I don't have that has completely changed, right? I think it was that song by, I'm going to forget his name now, but I quoted in the episode is, how can I say I love you when I don't love who I am? How can I give you all of me when I'm only half a man? And that would have been me then. And now I feel I'm showing up more fully. I'm showing up more authentically. Life serves up what life serves up, and I'm dealing with it and navigating it much more effectively. Pain is still happening, and yet suffering, the suffering factor has dropped significantly. Like when you begin to invest in yourself, I can't say it enough. When you really get clear on how important it is to engineer your life the way that you want to live it, and then be very deliberate, get the support you need. You can't do it alone. It's very hard to do it alone, but get the support you need. And then again, this is why community is so important. This is why I think this message is so important. It's almost like we're sounding the alarm, or we're blowing on a horn, and all those that are ready to hear that frequency are tuning into it and saying, yes, me too, please. And they're beginning to rise up. And so if you're listening today, man, this is why we often at the end of every episode ask you to share them out. If it's resonating with you, then like it, leave a positive review, a 5-star review if you can, even a testimonial. And that may sound kind of self-serving on our behalf, but that helps the podcast reach more people. And when you share it out on social, and you talk about it to friends and family, and perhaps they start tuning in, again, what it does is it starts to awaken the community around you that is also ready for this kind of change. And now that you find that you're not the only one, you're not alone. So there is power in the spoken word and putting it out into the universe. And to Matthew's point, moving the needle, right, and shifting the tide. It starts by opening up and talking to someone about it.
And I love that you said that. And certainly all of that resonates. I think we're on the same page when it comes to the greatest kind of, if there was one thing, that one thing is the notion of really finding that true, authentic who you are, and that you matter, and you taking care of you matters, and that's how you're best able to then serve others.
Yeah.
Is that notion of being focused on self, so that you can focus on the other important people that are in your life, not at the expense of the other people in your life. And even the notion, as you said, asking people to share it, and we do it. We do it every episode. I think for me, one of the most freeing things around all of what we've been doing is not apologizing for what we're doing, because while people might think we have ulterior motives, you know what? Let them think it.
Right.
We're just so free from that. We've had comments. Oh, you're trying to do whatever. We know we produce an episode. We produce a podcast. We do this week in and week out. At this point, we have generated zero revenue around what we do.
Right.
But we have also generated a significant amount of expenses in what we do, because we're passionate about it and because we believe in it. And we don't apologize at all. We don't apologize that as we begin to explore and look at ways to monetize what we're doing it so that we can continue to do the message. Right. So that it does cover the expenses so we can do this stuff. But not apologizing when we say, hey, we need you to share it. We need you to 5-star it and leave a review, because those are the things that help us get this message out. Not because both of us have spent many years in public kind of life, on stages where everybody applauded and said, "You the man," right?
Right. Dance, monkey, dance.
Neither one of us is motivated by that anymore. No. And I know that. I know I know I'm not, and I know you're not. That's not why we do it. We do it because this message matters. And we want you to be part of that message. We want you to be someone who is engaged, willing to be a part of this community in whatever way that you see. And certainly one of the things we are encouraging is those comments and those thoughts from others.
Absolutely. I had one client recently who reached out and he was looking for some, I do a lot of public speaking coaching. I help a lot of folks take
you're pretty good at that one.
Presentation skills to the next level. And so he signed up for that program, that coaching program, and then listened to one episode of the podcast. And he emailed me later that day and said, "Eric, is there any chance I can shift the focus of our upcoming sessions?" And I said, "Well, what do you mean?" He said, "I just watched your episode where you tell your story, and I think this is what really matters." And so we shifted our focus. And to your point, he's one of the clients that I'm walking through this work. And this is why we are beginning to look at not only bringing more guests on. Actually, I'm so excited about the guests that we're lining up in the near future. I know that we have Kelly Flanagan, author of Lovable, a book that has impacted us deeply, who's agreed to come on the show. We have our own significant others that are going to be coming on the show, right? Yep. We've got Wendy, who's going to be here in a few episodes from now. Kate will be joining us for an episode. And then a couple of people that have been super influential in terms of the work that we've done.
The most
influential people of all. And one of them is Sherry Kane, right? Yep. Our coach. She's also the mindset coach for the Philadelphia Eagles. So she works with professional athletes and works.
Too bad it's the Eagles.
The Eagles, but hopefully one day she'll see the light and she'll shift over to the Dallas Cowboys, because God knows they need help.
Okay, continue.
You're welcome. I'll continue. And then Jim Harrington, of course,
another coach for us
who is just phenomenal. And we hope to have them share both their stories of personal transformation that they've experienced and the methodology and tools that they use to help others really live their best life and overcome their past and overcome baggage, overcome trauma, and live their best life. So super excited about that, and also excited about the opportunities that we're exploring now to be able to support listeners that are ready to kind of take that next step and are saying, I've been following the podcast, I've been resonating with the message, I've tried to take some steps, but perhaps I need what other support is there for me in this journey? So we're looking now at coaching opportunities for people. We're looking at retreats. We're looking at different things that we might be able to do, group coaching type programs, and it's all about helping folks that are resonating with this message be able to to lean into it with even more deliberate intent, right? So so we look forward to sharing that when that's ready. We've just begun the early work on that, but excited about what the future holds here.
Yeah, and so one of the things that I would certainly suggest to you is that if you are someone who is interested in just being kept in the loop around things like coaching, retreats, other information, anything that might be happening, or even if you know somebody who you would say, boy, this individual, this author, or this podcaster or whomever would be perfect as a guest on Living Richly, that you think the message resonates, we welcome you to make an introduction if you know the individual personally, or send us that information as well. All that can be communicated. The easiest way to reach out to us is info@livingrichly.me, and we will certainly keep you in the loop as to all of the different things that we're going to be doing.
And as we encourage you to do on every show, and we have already done today, but just as a reminder as we prepare to wrap up today's episode, is to subscribe to our channel, whether that's on YouTube or Spotify or Apple Music or any of the podcasting platforms that you're listening to. Give us a review, a 5-star review if you feel so inspired, and make sure to share it out. And don't forget that our website, if you go to livingrichly.me, you will find that in the blog section of that website, every episode is listed. This one will be posted when this goes live. And anytime we mention tools or resources, then all of that'll be included in the show notes in those blog posts as well. So make sure to avail yourself of that.
Thank you so much for taking the time to listen in today, to watch the video if you're watching it. I really do appreciate. We recognize that this community is bigger than 2 of us, than 3 of us. This is a much larger, our goal is that this is a much larger movement, and we really do appreciate you being a part of that journey with us. Until next time, we really do just encourage you to continue to live out your best life.